Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lelantia Show. Today, I have a guest, and I'm so excited to welcome George Lizos to the show. And George is, let me pull up the bio. There we go. A spiritual teacher and intuitive, author of Be the Guru, co-creator of Elemental Healing, and host of the Lit Up Lightworker podcast. He helps lightworkers to find their life purpose and work their light in real, palpable ways that help create change in the world. And you can find George at his website, georgelizos.com, which I will post below. He's also on IG at George Lizos. And I am so excited to have George here today because we are going to be talking about the divine masculine, which is a very important topic because I have found that there are a lot of teachers who are talking a lot about the divine feminine and the divine feminine rising, and it's a lot of stuff around the divine feminine, and there really is this importance of balance. We have to have this balance, but people don't understand what that is. So I'm excited to have George here today to talk about that a little bit. So welcome to the show, George.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Yay, I'm so glad. So my first question is, for those who don't already know, what is the divine masculine and what is the difference between the divine masculine and the divine feminine?
Okay, so the best way to understand what the divine masculine and the divine feminine energies are is by looking at nature, because nature is perfectly balanced between these two energies. During the winter, we have the divine feminine energy at its highest, where nature goes to sleep. It's in this receptive state of preparing its energies and recalibrating its forces for spring and the summer to come. And it's not to say that it's an idle kind of energy. It is creative in a different way. It's just receptive, and it's gathering its energy and creating ideas ready to create them when spring comes. So the divine feminine energy is all about this energy of receptivity, of guidance, of nurturing ourselves, of opening up to source to receive divine guidance. And then as we go into spring and summer, that's where the divine masculine energy comes into full force, which is the energy of creation, of taking action, of moving forward, of shining. It is the energy of structure and form. And these two energies exist so naturally and so beautifully and so balanced in nature. And yet, in the human civilization over thousands of years, they have been unbalanced. Specifically, the masculine energy, not the divine masculine energy, but the masculine energy has been abused by patriarchy for thousands of years. And this all started when the first notion of ownership was created in human civilizations, and men felt like they could own land, and therefore the qualities and the energy of the masculine energy of creation became more important than the nurturing divine feminine energy that most women tended to have. And over time, this has been amplified to such a great degree that it has expanded in all aspects of society, in religion, in spirituality, in all the politics and societal systems around the world, where the divine feminine has been suppressed and the masculine energy has been abused. And there has been some beautiful work done by many lightworkers over many years, trying to bring the divine feminine back to its rightful place. But I believe that if we're not conscious of it, we'll end up creating yet another imbalance, this time with favoring the divine feminine. So I do believe it's very important to balance both the divine masculine and the divine feminine energies in a practical, not just an energetic way, to help create the balanced world that's reflected in nature. And the reason that I wrote my new book, Lightworkers Gotta Work, is to help lightworkers to find this balance, not just energetically, but in practical ways, to take action, but also meditate, and not that over-depend on meditation or like feminine practices, and not over-depend on the hustle at the same time, but find the perfect balance between the two.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think it's it's so important for us as light workers to have that balance, because that's how we get ourselves out into the world, which I know is an important topic in your book as well. So we kind of covered this a little bit. I feel like that, why is it important to heal our divine masculine energy within ourselves?
It is so important because we vilify it. I see so many light workers either over depending on feminine energy by saying, oh, I'm working my light by meditating and visualizing the world healing. No, you aren't. That is just nurturing your light. Light working involves some kind of work. And again, it doesn't have to be hustle. But this is all based on the trauma that many light workers have, rooted in past lives, where not the divine masculine, because the divine masculine is balanced, the masculine energy, and patriarchy therefore has abused and traumatized us on such a deep level that we're so afraid to even embrace it in this lifetime. I teach a lot about past lives, and I do a lot of past life regressions with people. And what keeps coming up with light workers as I regress them to their past lives is experiencing lifetimes where they've been victimized by patriarchal forces, by dominant men, or by dominant patriarchal masculine forces and energies. At the same time, because we've both been the abused and the abusers, we've been the patriarchs in our past lives as well. So we come into this lifetime with the expectation and then knowing that masculine energy is bad because of what we've been through. And unless we heal that, then we won't be able to embrace it. And unless we embrace masculine energy, then we can't fulfill our light worker purpose, our collective purpose, which is to help ascend the world into the new golden era, to help make this world a brighter, more loving, kinder place. This is the purpose of awakening and embracing our divine masculine energy. And unless we do this, and we over-depend on the divine feminine, we'll end up procrastinating, preaching to the world that we are working our light, but instead of being light workers, we're light chillers, because we spend all our day meditating, visualizing the world healing, but not listening and receiving all that divine guidance that meditation practice is giving us about the work we need to create into the world. So let me just break things down. What is light work? Light work is not meditating on world peace. Light work is not visualizing an affected area of people healing. Light work is not just doing a manifestation practices and trusting that those manifestation practices alone will create change in the world. Light work is about doing this work, doing the meditation, doing the manifestation practices, and receiving the inner guidance and the inspired divine guidance coming through from that to create courses, to write books, to do podcasts, to have YouTube shows like this one, to do actual work that shift people's perceptions and create real palpable change in the world. I mean, Martin Luther King has done it. Mahatma Gandhi has done it. So many light workers in our history have showed up despite the struggle, despite the judgment, and they've showed up for themselves and most importantly, for the world. Why are we not doing that?
I agree with that 100%. And one thing that I teach about is that when you align and you're deeply connected with yourself, then you know that action step. You know what your soul is guiding you to do, what you need to do to show up to do this work.
Exactly, 100%.
Yep, that's awesome. So how can we use the divine masculine energy to support the rise of the divine feminine?
I love this question, because what I've realized, like during my journey of accepting and healing the divine masculine, I had heard this phrase that did not make sense, but in retrospect, it did. I heard the phrase of, George, you need to find the feminine within the masculine. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but it does. Because when you think about it, the divine feminine is also masculine, and the divine masculine is also feminine. And I look at this, like, because I'm a Greek pagan, I practice the Greek Hellenic polytheistic tradition, honoring the Greek gods and nature, basically. And in my training to become a priest of the religion, I learned that on the altar, you have to include both a male and a female statue. So you invoke both the energy of the female and the feminine. And if you look at it, like the female goddesses, they have like male and masculine energy as well. And sometimes they have a male version. For example, Aphrodite is also Aphroditus, which is a male version of Aphrodite. So the ancients knew this very well because their religion was reflected upon nature. So in this way, when we realize that the feminine energy can also be masculine in the sense that, now how is this so in practical terms? Now the abuse of feminine energy is about procrastination. But when we listen to that guidance that we receive in the meditation practice and we take action on it, that's a balance, that's a divine feminine energy, which is also masculine, if that makes sense. So they are two sides of the same coin. In the same way, the divine masculine energy, if it's just an abuse of masculine energy, then that's hustle, like aimless business and hustle, and just what I like to call ego work, not light work, but ego work. We're just doing the work because we know we're supposed to do the work and because we're over depending on our own selves rather than opening up to guidance that's outside from ourselves, which is really not outside of ourselves, but we're opening up to guidance from source, which is, it flows through us.
Right.
So by embracing and balancing the divine masculine energy, we are supporting the divine feminine just by definition, because when we find the balance of the divine masculine energy within us and we forgive the abusers of masculine energy from the past and from the present, and we start to receive inspired guidance and take action, we automatically support the rise of the divine feminine, because the two are so interconnected. And at the same time, we can use masculine energy of creation, of taking action, to invest in activities, into people, into projects that help the divine feminine to rise. So one cannot exist without the other.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And it really is, I think what I have found is that once I found that difference and that balance within myself, I saw how clearly I had it before. And it's hard to explain it until you really feel it fully, what that difference is between it and having what that balance does, how much easier it is to move through life in a place of flow, that it doesn't have to be a fight and a struggle to move forward.
And do you know what the easiest way to do this is, in my opinion? And it's connecting with nature. And I want to talk a little bit, because in my book, Lightworkers Gotta Work, it's divided into 4 parts. The first part is all about finding your life purpose and getting really specific about it and defining it. Then it's about nurturing your light. Then it's about working your light. And finally, it's about protecting your light. And almost like many of the processes I included are based in connecting with nature, because I believe wholeheartedly that connecting with the elementals, such as the fairies and the mermaids and the unicorns, but also the collective energy of the elements, helps us find this balance of masculine and feminine energy so instinctively, because we're part of nature as well. Even though we were brought up to think that we are controlling nature, we're above nature and live into these mega cities away from nature, like our spiritual DNA is still part of nature. Our physical DNA is part of nature. We are elemental beings ourselves. We're made up out of all the 5 elements. So when we go out in nature and therefore we come back home, we automatically find this balance, because it's such an innate aspect of us. We don't find it, we remember it. And when we remember it, we take action towards it. So in the book, Lightworkers Gotta Work, like so many exercises all about connecting with the elementals. I talk about sunbathing, moon bathing, and star bathing as important practices to nurturing our light, because the light from the moon, the stars, and the sun are a reflection of our own inner light. They have different qualities. So by actively bathing under these different lights, we can nurture our own inner light, and therefore help us find this balance, and therefore that will therefore allow us to work our light follow our life purpose, and to help create a better world.
Yes, I agree with that so much. And I tell my clients all of the time, nature is healing. You spend as much time as possible in nature and you will naturally come back to yourself. You will naturally find that way forward. It's like magic, really. It's like you spend time and you are in that space of just allowing yourself to connect and just be. You don't have to try to do anything. You just be in that space of allowing, and things naturally kind of come back together and like fall into place. So,
Exactly. Like we learn by osmosis when it comes to nature.
yep, we really do. It really is incredible. And I work with the elementals. Obviously, that's what I talk about a lot on my channel. So it's really amazing to have another person on here who does a lot of the same work, similar work at least, that we teach a lot of the same sort of stuff and in our own different techniques of doing it. But this is exactly the stuff that I talk about all of the time, and that importance of connecting deeply with the earth and allowing that connection, because that naturally will heal so much within us. I actually talked to Ryan about this last night.
100%.
So is there anything else that you wanted to share with us about the divine masculine and divine feminine before we end this?
Well, I'd like to invite everyone to go check out my book, Lightworkers Gotta Work, because we take all that theoretical information that we've just talked about the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and we ground it into physical practices. I'm all about processes and tools and rituals and meditations. So Lightworkers Gotta Work. It is as the ultimate manual to following your purpose and creating change in the world. And really the biggest message of the book is that the world won't change sitting in meditation pillows all day long. The world changes when lightworkers get specifically clear as to what their life purpose is and take consistent action towards following and fulfilling their life purpose. It is the ultimate manual. That's how I like to think about it, because if I had to write a single book in my entire lifetime, this would be it, because that's how important I believe is for light workers to balance these two energies so they can take action to create this magnificent world that we were born to create. If we embrace the divine masculine and the divine feminine energy, our life purpose comes to life, and we know exactly what steps we need to take to move forward and create it. So I'd like to invite everyone to go and pre-order the book on Amazon. It's already been a #1 Amazon bestseller, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so excited for people to go out and check it out.
So it releases June 4th, correct?
Indeed, yes.
Okay, so yes, everybody, you want to make sure to pre-order your copy. So it is really important and helpful for the authors to support the authors by doing pre-orders, so that the week that the book releases, it will go and, they get the best numbers that first week. So as someone who actually works in a bookstore as well, I know that this is really important. So pre-order if you possibly can, and at least add it to your wish list so that you don't miss it. I hear from people every day, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to move forward. And they're in this space of lack instead of connecting within. And if you go in nature, like we talked about, and you be in that space of allowing, and you find that guidance within you, you will know that next step. And this book is going to give you those steps to get to that place to understand it, because it can be really simple. It doesn't have to be hard. We make it hard with our thought process, kind of overthinking so much. But in my experience, I have found that it doesn't have to be hard, but this book will definitely give you those steps to be able to understand a little bit more of how you can move forward in that. And I find this really helpful because you can read the same thing over and over and over again to kind of soak it all in deeply.
And if you're listening and you love practical processes as well, especially in the first part of the book, I share my 3-step formula to not just finding, but defining your life purpose. Like by the end of it, people will have a 2-paragraph definition of exactly what their life purpose is, so they never have to wonder.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that that's there. And I think that we do get really overwhelmed with stuff. So having it in a practical, simple way that people can actually do it and not feel so overwhelmed is really important and will make such a difference in people's lives. So I know that I'm really grateful for you for writing this book and bringing this to people, because it's so, so needed. There's a lot of books out there, but it can be really overwhelming. This book kind of has a lot of that simplistic, being able to lay everything out in a practical way, it seems like.
Thank you, Lalantia. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Everybody, thank you so much for watching today. If you are not already subscribed to this channel and you enjoy the content that you saw today, I invite you to subscribe. You can join me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Sorceress Circle. I'm also at Lalantia Makana on Facebook, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thank you, George, so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.